Welcome to mathsmaster.org. We're going to have a look at an activity called sequence designs now. This is about visual designs that come out of number sequences. It's a great activity. Let's have a look at how we get started. Okay, for this you will need a sheet of squared paper, a pencil, a ruler and some colouring pencils or some felt tip pens. So sequence designs can look like this. This pattern, believe it or not, came from the square numbers. So we'll have a look at how we can produce some fantastic patterns like this just from number sequences. It's worth also saying that this idea came from the Enrich Maths website, which is a really great website for lots of fun activities to do with maths. So please check out their website for some more great ideas. Okay. To start with, just take a sequence of numbers. So I chose the square numbers. Just to recap, the square numbers come from doing 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4 and so on. So I write out my number sequence as you can see here. The next step is that you have to rewrite the number sequence, but only using the units digits in each of the numbers. So you'll see in my square number sequence I've highlighted in blue all the units digits as the last digit in each number, and then I've brought them down and rewritten the sequence below it just using those units digits. Okay, the next step, if you look at your new sequence, you'll see if you've got enough terms in there that it actually starts repeating. So for me, after I got past the 0, the 1, 4, 9 started repeating again. Now you don't need repeating bits in what we're going to do, so basically just chop off the part of your sequence where it starts repeating. Okay, if you've got any zeros, they're not particularly helpful for this task, so get rid of those too. So I'm going to remove the 0 that I've got, and here is my sequence. I'm going to use this sequence as a set of instructions which are going to help me create my pattern. Now the one thing that you've got to be really clear about in your mind with doing this activity is that you understand the idea that we are spiralling around in an anti-clockwise direction. That's the direction that you can see I've drawn here. And we go a quarter of a turn each time. So rather than going up, the next time we'd go left, and then the next time we go down, and then the next time we go right. We go around in an anti-clockwise direction. Okay, let's have a look and see how we actually produce this pattern. So here's my number sequence, and here's my squared paper. The first term in the sequence is 1, so I'm going to draw a line or an arrow which is just 1 square long, pointing to the right. The next step, remember I said we're spiralling around anti-clockwise. Rather than going right, a quarter of a turn round from that would be to go up. The next term in the sequence is 4, so I draw an arrow pointing up 4 squares long. A quarter of a turn round from pointing upwards in an anti-clockwise direction is left. So the next term in the sequence is 9. I draw an arrow 9 squares long, pointing to the left. A quarter of a turn round from pointing left in an anti-clockwise direction is pointing down. The next term in the sequence is 6. So I draw an arrow 6 squares long, pointing down. A quarter of a turn round from pointing down in an anti-clockwise direction would be right. So the next term in the sequence being 5, I draw an arrow pointing to the right 5 squares long. Next term in the sequence is 6. Rather than going right, this time we go up 6 squares. And then rather than going up, the next time we would go left. The next term in the sequence is 9, so I draw an arrow 9 squares long. We've just gone left, so next time we have to go down. So we go down 4 squares, as that's the next term in the sequence. And to get to the end of the sequence, we go 1 square to the right. We went down last time, so a quarter of a turn anti-clockwise from that is to the right. Okay, when you get to this point, literally just start all over again. So we're going to go back to the first term in the sequence, which is 1, but we went right last time, a quarter of a turn anti-clockwise from right is up. So with that, starting again, I go 1 square with the arrow in the upward direction. Then I go 4 left, 9 down, 6 right, 5 up, 6 left, 9 down, 4 right, and 1 up, as you can see. And you just keep repeating this process. So the next one will be 1 square to the left, and so on. You repeat this process and hopefully you should get back to where you started. And that's where our sequence design comes from. You've got your design now. To finish it off, you might like to colour it in. It might be quite nice to ask other people if they can guess which number sequence your pattern came from. Okay, so which sequence will you choose? I've put a few suggestions of sequences up here that you might like to try out and see what patterns they produce. That was Sequence Designs. If you want to see some more great maths videos, please visit mathsmaster.org.